On behalf of India Energy Forum, let me welcome you all. I particularly extend my hearty welcome to the panelists today because this particular webinar was organized at a very short notice, about less than a week. I talked to Anil, I talked to Deepak, I talked to Balwant, and of course I also wanted Ajay Shankar and Alok, but they have some other engagements outside, so they couldn't make it. But nevertheless, we have been able to put together the team here. This subject is so important. It has always been important. I think right from the beginning of civilization, it is important. Because without energy, you have no civilization growing, right from Iron Age and Stone Age. So energy security is a concept that connotes that you have energy. I was mentioning that this has always been very relevant right from the inception of humanity. It is so vital. And though it is called security, but its real meaning is that how independent you are in the matter of reliably accessing energy when you need. When I was getting the foreword of the book Energy Security and Climate Change, which was published in 2009, and the foreword was written by Dr. Kalam, he made a point that why are you calling it energy security, which is really energy independence? But when I explained to him that this phrase has become so common that everybody understands it in the same manner, that is there energy available to the extent required and at a time that is required, or it is not available? Is there predictability or it is unpredictable? And therefore, this subject, as I said, has always been there in global context. Every country thought it would be do itself, it will take care of itself. But the international trade and business in some way started long, long ago. We don't need to get into the history. But where this concept got strengthened adequately, was during 80s when Ronald Reagan was the president of United States. He tried to formalize this with all the strength that USA had at that time, formalize it in the manner that interdependence, sharing of resources, helping each other, working with each other, trading our commodities, and also providing energy, available energy to others through proper arrangements should be streamlined, should be institutionalized, and that followed WTO and others. So therefore, it had started long, long ago, but it got strengthened. 80s, when we were young managers, globalization became a very buzzword for management. Management books were written. And since then, it had been happening. And so you can say 80 to now, almost 4 decades. In the last 5, 6, 7 years, there have been problems, good amount of problems, in the sense that despite contract, despite arrangement, you are not secure. You have not been able to fully secure yourself. And therefore, different countries, depending on what sort of arrangement they have made and what sort of degree of reliability and certainty about this arrangement is there, they have their challenge. India, so coming to India, India does have challenge. We are on the matter of energy, access to energy and availability when needed. We are partially successful. In some areas, we are very near being successful. Of course, our needs will continue increasing as the income level has to increase, as we have to grow, we have to attain a much higher level of GDP. So needs will go on increasing. And to that extent, the size of the problem and size of the demand will keep increasing. Or availability of energy itself will enhance the level of demand and enhance the level of income and level of GDP. In the last 5 years, most importantly, when the Ukraine war started, this subject has become, it has assumed certain dimension, a dimension of a nature that every country is concerned. All are concerned. I don't think any country is self-dependent, fully independent insofar as energy is concerned. In case of India, we have the challenge. We have done well in last, at least in this current century, we have done very well on power. We created capacity. We didn't have even 100,000 megawatt. Today we have more than 500,000 megawatt of capacity. Last 15 years, particularly last 10 years, solar revolution has made a big difference on the landscape of production of energy and availability of energy. And it has also brought problems of uncertainties in the sense that in evenings it's not available. So there are issues. But if we look at the overall scenario on power with certain associated challenges or derived challenges or created challenges on account of renewables, which we are trying to solve, renewables, solar, wind, hybrid, now battery energy storage. So I think they are more or less under control so far as India is concerned. And dependence on outside is limited. Coal is our most important energy resource, most important. Unfortunately, we have 70% of our power today, even today, coming from coal, so therefore you can depend on that. Even coal we need to import, but partially. With the opening of coal sector, that problem is getting reduced, more and more reduced. Captive coal block, commercial coal blocks are coming more and more, and the amount of import of coal that will be needed, particularly for power, of course, for steel, we will continue to need. But that is not, that is within the size, and we cannot say it is too challenging. So on power side, coal, renewable with wind and solar in a big way, we are in a comfortable position. We are trying to set right many other associated problems. So our energy independence, and then we also have some South Asia, particularly BBIN region, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal region, the cooperation. Therefore, we also have good relationship with Nepal and Bhutan particularly, and they depend on us and we depend on them insofar as the level of energy security, its availability is concerned. So I think you can say it may not be called absolutely free from problem. There is nothing free from problem, but we cannot say that it is too challenging insofar as availability of power is concerned. Where we are in very bad shape, and in India Energy Forum, we have had several discussions, and that is in the area of petroleum fuels, oil and gas, where our dependence is, in case of crude, our dependence is now more than 88%. In case of gas, more than 50%, and that is a bit challenging. And then that is something which immediately cannot be dispensed with insofar as our day-to-day work is concerned. Recently, I wrote a piece and I tried to analyze how did we manage to get into this petroleum problem so badly. And then I found that, of course, petroleum sector is there, no doubt. I mean, they can't discover and they overnight something and produce. If efforts have been there. But then we have not succeeded in harnessing our total resources, natural resources. But then most importantly, the dependence has become so huge because of transport sector, railway. Railway infrastructure, 50 years ago, and railway infrastructure now has totally been out of tune insofar as the requirement is concerned. The maximum amount of traffic, goods traffic, shifted from railways to road gradually because of railway inadequacies. And that is something which we cannot immediately manage. It is a matter of concern. Of course, Government of India, through its diplomatic initiatives, because geopolitical situation has become so complex that, of course, you can't predict everything every time. But these 5-6 years have been, and particularly now, the present president's of USA time, it has become, we cannot imagine what can happen. With all that, Government of India has made arrangement and trying to make arrangement, which is trying to solve the problem temporarily. How far it will continue and how far this problem can be kept within limits, one cannot say, because it is moving on and going on. I think that is something where we are in difficulty, and therefore that is a challenge. But we also have to discuss a little bit of way forward. So if the problem is known, if the challenge is known, I think again I have written some pieces on petroleum sector in particular, and there the suggestions have been twofold. One is unexplored resources must be on war footing, explored, investigations done, both for crude and gas. It is a time-consuming process. It cannot be solved overnight. This is one, that domestic production is increased. Second, and more importantly, shift the consumption from petroleum fuels to others. Like in case of transport, we have shifted electric vehicle, we can shift to hydrogen, we can shift. Railway shifted from diesel to electricity traction. I had some role to play when I was advising the energy management company of railway system. And once the railway further enhances its infrastructure, again it can depend more on electric traction than on the petrol and diesel. Road transport slowly has to shift to that. This has to be a short, medium, and long-term plan, because railway continues to be most optimal and most effective ways of transportation of materials, the transportation of goods. Coal transportation is a huge challenge all the time. So that is one way of looking at it, that we shift the consumption. Maybe our kitchens shift to electricity in a significant way. That is another important step that can be taken. So I think we will have to plan short, medium, and long-term actions, because challenge is there at the door and we need to sort it out. Rest of the actions that is there, I will not say that these areas actions are not there, but looking to the present scenario of complete uncertainty, the pitch has to be higher, the urgency has to be experienced a bit more, and therefore actions have to be faster at all levels. Now, on manufacturing side, again, maybe we are going in a big way in solar or even battery. It will be necessary that again we don't get into the same trap that we depend so hugely on import for this equipment that again we are in difficulty. So I think it is dual. So the question of delivery of energy, it's also the question of production of energy, and that area also needs to be looked upon. So these are some of the points to provoke discussions, to initiate discussions, and setting the context. I will come back again after listening to all of you and also for facilitating question answer. So I think let's few couple of minutes of summing up. We have had a very extensive discussion. Of course, we have covered the whole range of renewable power, coal, demand side management, energy conservation, transmission. They are all linked issues, and they have a role to play to mitigate, at least partially, if not fully, the impact of present situation of geopolitical nature and energy security. So there is absolutely no doubt about it. Fortunately, in all those areas, the suggestions that have been made in renewable area, in distributed renewable energy, rooftop, cooking, even cooking through electricity system, some gadgets. Only thing is they need to be systematically structured. They need to be expanded in the present crisis, where the response time could be faster and more extensive. Maybe DRE can become a sort of a natural way of trying to have our transmission costs reduced. Whole of the rural area, and why rural area? A point was made that even urban area or semi-urban area, DRE, distributed rural energy, is quite relevant. So to that extent, those things, and shifting the present crisis really is how do we handle the petroleum fuel, both oil and gas problem, where our reserve can vanish anytime. Whether we don't get, that will be a situation. So there, very short term, medium term, long term solution definitely. Now, Anil made that point. We are doing our transport as usual. There has to be some sort of arrangement to restrict, to reduce the transportation through the current petroleum fuel so that we don't get into serious trouble. Till the time at least the issue gets into some solution. But there has to be long term. As in the last 15 years, we have increased our dependence on import by at least 10 percentage points. The Prime Minister mentioned from 76 to 66%, it has gone to 88%. So that is something one needs to look into, and definitely one needs to work on that. That is the main area of attack that one has to do. All other areas are equally important, like battery, solar, expansion of solar, but dependence on import for manufacturing. Good thing is that all these areas are flagged in the system, maybe in the government system. Our ministry knows, Central City Authority knows, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy knows, and something or the other, production linked incentive. There could be pitfalls, shortcomings here and there, but issues are in attention. They have attracted attention, and something or the other is being done. Maybe the way it is done, there can be a method improvement, the procedural improvement, the impact could be better. But I think all areas, even biogas, a lot of projects have started happening. I have collected some details about the biogas projects. So that is also happening in a significant way. Some case studies have been done. But again, there is a scope for further expanding that. Present crisis has to be handled somewhat differently. And it should not be forgotten once the crisis is over. This problem will recur again and again. So therefore, if we are not increasing our production of oil and gas, definitely we have to reduce our consumption of oil and gas. Substitute that thing. And it goes without saying that in each area of energy, whether it is electricity, in conventional, non-conventional, renewable, or petroleum sector or coal, demand side management is important, energy efficiency is important, conservation of energy is important. At this point of time, conservation of energy or conservation of petroleum product consumption definitely is more important.